All right, 3 o'clock on a Tuesday afternoon. Welcome aboard the Postgame Show alongside Elijah Campbell, the coach. I'm Jay Phillips, not a coach. Glad you are with us, wherever you might be. Appreciate you hanging out here on a Tuesday afternoon. Alan Cole joining us coming up in a bit. We get into a lot of Gamecock storylines, a lot more reaction from you, from us, on South Carolina's spring game the other day. Not so much the game itself, but just now the storylines that begin to unfold as the offseason hits. A couple of names in the portal. A big one yesterday, Cam Pringle going in. You know, Cam was a highly rated player coming out of high school, but perhaps, you know, for some of the things that we read, the writing on the wall would suggest that moving on was better for him at this point in his collegiate career. He'll have 4 full years to play. Will there be others that enter the portal? Today is the last day, speaking of portal entry, for basketball players to enter. If you're already in, you can still, of course, move around a little bit. South Carolina with an addition in the men's side yesterday. Looks like a pretty good get on the women's side today. Just saw the latest about 2 hours ago. Saw an article, the latest off-season, I guess, what do we call it? Way too early? Next version of the way too early top 25?
Now it's just the too early top 25.
Yeah, it's not way too early, just too early.
Because as soon as the final buzzer sounds for the championship game, some people have that already in the can to be thrown out as soon as that buzzer sounds. Yeah. All right, it's the way too early top 25.
Do you want to guess who the newest number one is in the just too early top 25?
Would it be the Gamecocks of Jacksonville State?
Nope, but you're close.
Okay.
No.
Educated guess.
Yeah, it's Auburn. That's what I meant by close.
We might even, we might. Honestly, it might be closer with Jacksonville State.
It is the South Carolina Gamecocks. I found it interesting that, and I think Charlie Cream, contributed mostly to this, maybe some others as well at ESPN, but they basically said I'll have to paraphrase because I don't have it pulled up. Basically, they said, while the loss of Malaysia Fulwiley is a thing, the addition of Tania Latson more than makes up for it. In other words, if Malaysia was in 8 or a 9, you just added a 9 or a 10. So, and the consensus from the national folk is South Carolina under Dawn Staley has never had a backcourt scorer like young Miss Latson. That's saying something.
That is a lot.
That's saying something. And it may be, look, I don't know that you and I have talked about this, so have a lot of others. I don't think she's going to average, if she does, great, but I don't think she's going to average 25 points a night with the Gamecocks because there's a lot more scoring potential and productivity to go around. But I just found it interesting. And that's not I suppose in some ways for those analysts, it is a judgment on how they viewed Malaysia and the entire picture. And they made the point that we all did. The Maryland game, bang.
Saved you.
The Duke game, not there. And Dawn's frustration was evident. Again, Malaysia led the team in steals. Awesome. And the 7th most minutes played. That's a big deal. She also led the team in turnovers in the 7th most minutes played. And that's not a good deal. And that's not a real good trade-off. And it was about a 1-to-1, But as you and I also said, she's a star. And wherever she lands, she's going to be a star. And when she goes to the next level, she's going to be a star. And I hope that enough of her game is refined over the next few years to put her in contention, probably not in 3 years for the Olympic team, but maybe in 7 years for the Olympic team. Because even then she'll only be, 26, 27 years old?
Be approaching the prime of her career.
Yeah. So, you'd like to think that kind of thing can happen. And again, one of the greatest Olympians of all time was her head coach and was doing everything she could to try and hone that craft and just get her to see the bigger picture. And I think she did. I was watching a show the other day. It was guys doing soccer, but they were just talking about like how many times it was a former coach Steve Nickel, who's on. You might watch the ESPN FC show, but Steve, he was
no
a
relation
great.
to Steve Dime.
He's not. He was a great Liverpool player, and he was a pretty good coach. And he was talking about when he coached in MLS. He said, I had one defender, and I would tell him what to do, and we would show him what to do in practice, and he would get it done in practice, and he would understand back to the things. And ultimately, we were like, that's it. And my mind immediately went to Dawn in Malaysia. So, but anyway, if you want to go check those out, ESPN.com, go to the women's basketball section, and you can read what they had to say about Carolina. I think UCLA was right behind them, Connecticut right there too. So, and look, it's April.
We are almost copying and pasting.
They played a game this month, man. That's how early it is. They played a game this month.
The national championship game was only like 2.5 weeks ago.
So we got a long way to go. Gamecock baseball back at it tonight, 6:15 pregame, 6:30 first pitch. South Carolina taking on North Florida. We'll have more on that in just a little bit. The Gamecocks will then head to Lexington this weekend to take on a Kentucky team that is very good. A Kentucky team that just this past weekend took 2 of 3 in Knoxville against probably even better Tennessee ball club. South Carolina did pick up their first conference series victory of the season, but I hate to say reverted to form in Game 3. We talked a lot about that yesterday with Coach Maneri, and he was very upfront about the why. Dylan Eskew was scratched. Jared Evans had to go in, and, it was
Jarvis,
sorry, just not prepared mentally for it and had a bad inning. Was Mississippi, I think, kind of, chomping at the bit to at least get a game out of this one. Maybe all of that could be true. So, go up to you got to try to keep doing what you're doing in terms of what the good starting pitching was at the beginning of the series. And if you can find a way and cut down the walks, blah, 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 we've done it. But the fact is you're sitting on 4 conference wins with 12 games to play.
Yeah. I mean, you got to start taking at least 2 or 3, almost all of them the way here, if you want to be able to salvage something, right? I mean, you're still in a position now, still next to last in the SEC. But if you pick up 2 wins and Mississippi State and Florida don't think they play each other this week, do they? Or this weekend?
Who? Mississippi
State and Florida.
I'll check for you.
You get 2 wins there, and say they get swept, then you tie with them. And then, right now, you're 2 games back behind them, 4 games behind Kentucky and A&M, and then 5 behind Alabama and Auburn. If you can at least get yourself to that lower middle class of the SEC, you salvage something. It's not obviously a season you're going to be happy about, but it gives you an opportunity to have some type of building block going into next year if you end up finishing this one strong. And there's at least some opportunity here to be able to climb the bottom part of the standings. Now, I'm not saying they're going to win enough to be able to contend with like Arkansas, LSU, and Texas, which Texas at 16-2 is seemingly running away with the league this year.
They are.
You're not going to catch them, but you can get yourself, in the thick of at least the rest of the conference. And that's what we kind of, I guess, need it to be at baseline, considering we just had a discussion before this last weekend series that this might be the worst program in the SEC, not named Missouri.
Not named Missouri. And again, with all due respect, I do not believe that Missouri, I'm trying to be careful as I say this because I don't want to overstate it, but I just don't think Missouri, let me just be blunt. I don't think Missouri cares as much about baseball as any other school. It's not that they don't care about baseball. I think they do. But I don't think they care as much as anybody else. And I almost and I could put other programs in certain spots about how much they care about baseball. But that's the frustrating thing for fans around here is that you are in the same boat in terms of care with LSU and Texas and Florida and Vanderbilt and Arkansas, and that you should be living in that neighborhood every year. And you've seen Tennessee and Kentucky emerge. You've seen Georgia of late emerge.
You've seen Ole Miss and Mississippi State win titles.
Yes, you've seen the 2 Mississippis win the College World Series since you've last even been to the College World Series. And it's not to discount any of them. I know how much Mississippi State cares. I get it, man. But Carolina let it slip. I just look around. It's just Just look around. Facts are facts. You
The
know?
season's not this just 2025 type of example. I mean, this is kind of been building.
I mean, facts are facts. As the why becomes more of an opinion thing. And the how and the why you can debate. You can't debate the fact that your program has slipped. And again, it's slipped behind, like I say, with Tennessee. Again, all due respect. And this isn't disrespect. You lived in Tennessee. You know. There was a time they didn't care. They didn't care.
Yeah, for about a decade and a half.
You know, I look at Tennessee. There's a couple of schools in the SEC that I've looked at now that I've had, 30 years to cover this league professionally. And again, I mean this. I say this. You can tell I've got a smile on my face. So I'm not. This isn't completely serious, but to some degree, I say it because of what I've observed. But Tennessee and Georgia and Auburn, I have always kind of put in their own little group for very different reasons. There's one sport. Now, Tennessee of late, I give them full credit. Rick Barnes has done a thing, and Tony Vitello has done a thing, and Pat Summitt always did her thing. But even when Pat Summitt was at her height, what's the football team doing? Again, I've joked about Georgia. They could go 3 or 4 years. Hey, don't we have a basketball team?
We play the sport too, right?
We have don't we have? I think we do, yeah. Right? Or is that intramural? I don't know. What's the football team doing? And then I had a buddy, one of my very best friends went to Auburn. He said that Auburn has one season. It's called sports season. It lasts from September until some type of bowl game. And then there is the supplemental sports season, which includes recruiting and spring sport.
I think factually incorrect is the bowl game part.
Well, when he was there, they went to bowl
Factually incorrect.
They went to bowl games.
They did when he was there.
Yes. Yeah. And they have since.
You might as well start learning basketball, man.
Yeah, and now
because they actually win games.
Yeah, but so that's why I say now. And you could go, well, Jay, wait, what about Bruce Pearl? I'm like, no, again. But there's just that feeling of, once you start to care about something, right?
You get pretty good at it once you start paying attention.
Since you asked, real quick, baseball series this weekend: Oklahoma at Georgia, Arkansas at Florida. So that answers your question about Florida.
Florida can easily get swept.
Missouri at Alabama. State will be at Auburn. Vandy at Ole Miss. Tennessee at LSU. Ooh, that's number 6 versus number 7. And that's Texas A&M will be in Austin to take on number 1 Texas. So how many top 10 teams are in the SEC right now? Texas is number 1. LSU, Tennessee, top 10. Vandy, top 10. Arkansas, top 10. Georgia, top 10. My goodness.
Hey, there's a good chance Florida gets swept by Arkansas. You take 2 or 3 from Kentucky. You're right there with them.
Yeah, it's a big ask.
It is a big ask.
Up at that park. All right, we got some football to get to. Shane Beamer speaking in Florence. We got a few things that he spoke about after the spring game as well, more from Coach Campbell throughout the day. Alan Cole will be joining us shortly on a number of quick-hit topics with Alan covering the Gamecocks. And we're following the national scene as the college football playoff meetings are underway in Dallas, and we'll recap some of the news that broke yesterday from the NCAA, where they're being proactive. And then we get to chuckle like I just
That's what they want you to think.
That's what they really do too. That's the sad and arrogant thing. I call that kind of thing naive arrogance. Because they really do want you to think, no, we're doing stuff. I'm like, where were you in like 2009?
That's great. The deadline to do stuff was a decade plus
ago. At least a decade ago. You're listening to the Postgame Show. Kato's Power Equipment has all kinds of great things going on this April to get you and your yard feeling better. I say you because, they don't have things to make you feel better except for the equipment that makes your yard look better, and that gives you a sense of pride, and it matters. I like keeping my yard clean. I like making it look good. Like as I've said, if you are fortunate enough to have a little piece of planet Earth to call your own, well, why not work to make it look good? And Kato's is ready to help you out with that. Now, many of you, and let's face it, a lot of us do pay somebody to do that. So if you're a professional landscaper, get into Kato's right now. Maybe there's some big jobs to do. They've got tool rentals available. Push mowers at $50 a day, zero turns at $150 per day. So a big job needs a quick hit that you don't have to worry about, maintaining anything. Kato's has it for you. Plus, they've got free stuff from Toro for different purchases. Just get into the showroom and see. Beautifully remodeled, 4012 West Beltline Boulevard, and always online, katospowerequipment.com. I love my friends at Kato's. Nineteen minutes after 3 o'clock on this Tuesday afternoon. Welcome back into the Postgame Show. Jay Phillips, Elijah Campbell with you. Alan Cole, Gamecock Scoop, coming up with us in just over 10 minutes' time. By the way, looking ahead, we're finalizing a time, but Nick Emanwari is going to be with Elijah and me either tomorrow or Thursday. We are he's finalizing his plans, and so we're flexible. We told him, and Steve Kennedy, who's working with him, we was like, hey, we're good. And on that note, our good friend Langston Moore is already, he's not penciled in. He's now etched in stone that he'll be with us Thursday and Friday at 4 o'clock each day.
Bank on it.
Talking draft and spring game. Probably throw in some brisket talk while we're at it because that's
Start
what we
making
do.
me hungry.
I was telling him, he's from Charleston, and I was in Hilton Head last week. I do like to talk about food. We went to a place called Redfish. I've been there many times. It's delicious. I had a grouper, very southern meal, though. Grouper over, I say a bed of, but I don't know, that's not really the right term. But it had field peas, like really good soaked field peas in some kind of gravy, and collards. Oh. It's so good.
That sounds delicious.
It's so good. If you got collards and you say they're like good Southern style, I'm there.
Collards are hit or miss for me.
I love collards.
Just your like replacement level collards, not a fan of.
No,
Done well.
yeah, and like don't get them out of a can and then just like put some
No.
salt on them.
Uh-uh.
Nah, they gotta have flavor, and they need to be like super slow cooked. Like when I make collards for New Year's, collards are on for at least 6 hours.
Necessary.
At least 6 hours, probably even longer. I'll get up first thing. It might be more like 8. I mean, you got to really do it right. You can make them without fat back or ham hock or anything if you want to use like smoked paprika.
Fat back, preferably.
Fat, yeah.
Is
my mom used to go and get, like that was all you always knew collards and New Year's were coming because my mom, like on the 30th or 29th of December, would make sure she went to the Winn-Dixie or later to the Kroger and got like a specially picked out ham hock from the butcher. I was like, yeah.
That's when you do.
Now we're talking. Flavor Country is on the way. But anyway, we were just talking about, that kind of stuff. And he's like, hey, you got to know you're in the South. So it was good. Anyway, okay, sorry. I don't want to get hungry. But we'll talk about those things and more.
Too late for me, man.
With Langston. And again, we are, industry term, efforting.
Yeah, I didn't know that word could be a verb. Jay Phillips.
Tell that Jay Phillips. If y'all never heard that story, I'll tell it again one day. I'm not going to do it right now. I'll tell it again one day.
Some people are not amused with the word effort being used as a
Well,
verb.
you would have thought, okay, now I got to tell it. So, because you would have thought that I had been spouting the wonders and greatness of I don't know, Soviet communism.
Or saying something sacrilegious.
Yeah, the way, that Jay Phillips.
The vitriol in that voicemail.
But I did. I many years ago on our old show, Mike Morgan, Michael Haney, and I, this is going back a long way on the old AM show. One day we just said something about efforting, and we all said it, industry term, and that's how we did it, industry term. And this lady called and left a message with our program director. And just me. She didn't say anything about Morgan or Haney. It was just me.
You got singled out.
Yeah, big time. That, and this disdain in her voice. That Jay Phillips. Will you tell him that effort is not a verb? And our PD, man,
I love that.
Again, our PD. Basically, as long as we weren't breaking FCC rules, he did not give two you-know-whats about what we did. He was more in tune with music stuff. His name was Al. He was from California. He was over here for a bit. Good dude. Fun guy. But he was just laughing. He's like, and then we played it for like a week on the show.
Would die to have that segment.
Yeah, it got lost. Got lost in the great server crash of 2018. Yeah, RIP everything that we did for over 10 years. Yeah, gone. Don't know how.
Into the ether.
Anyway, let's get to some football. How about cut number 9 on today's list? The Shane Beamer stuff. Do you have that here?
I do.
Make sure we have the same list here. Shane was in Florence last night. Well, guess who's from Florence?
I know someone from Florence.
I do too, including you got to interview Lenore Sells the other day. Well, we should play that at some point. But for now, here's Shane Beamer on what he is seeing from his starting quarterback.
I just love how steady and consistent he is. He's a guy that he's the same guy. You guys that have been around him and know him, he never changes his personality. He's steady, consistent. And that's a great quality to have in a leader. That's a great quality to have in your quarterback, and that's what he is. He got better every game last year as the season went on, and I think the thing for Lenoris this year is just continue to make those strides, to continue to improve as a quarterback, and there's a lot that he can do from that standpoint in the passing game and the run game. And then just as a leader, last year at this time, I hadn't even said he was the starter yet, and he's still trying to earn a role. Well, now he has a pretty prominent role on our team, obviously, and I've seen him be more vocal and be willing to hold guys accountable even more so now as the quarterback, and that's what he just needs to continue to do in his own way. Don't be somebody that you're not, but pleased with the progress that he's made on and off the field.
And I know you had some fun with him, and I appreciated that. He seemed to really enjoy the play you called.
I think he did.
Yeah,
I think he did. He thought it was funny that the footage he used to show the play, admittedly, not great quality, right? I mean, this is somebody who looks like they took their toaster and was able to record with it and stuck it in front of their TV and recorded it and uploaded it to YouTube.
I do think that's what they must have done because 2012 if it was straight from ESPN or Fox or whoever had that game.
Oh, it was Longhorn Network.
Okay, well then ESPN. Yeah. It would have looked a lot better. So yeah, clearly somebody, you're right, almost like took their phone to record it but anyway.
And the fact that was the cleanest version of that play I could find on YouTube is wild. But I think he got a kick out of running the wishbone for a play.
Again, if they installed like 3 or 4 plays out of that formation just to mess with people, that'd be fun. But I'm going to go out on a limb and say they're not going to do that.
You never know.
I don't know.
I mean, Mike Shula told me if it works, it's no longer my play.
Back to the Future.
It's our play. So if we see them line up.
It's their play.
If they line up in the wishbone this year at any point in a game, I'm absolutely taking credit for how many yards it picks up.
Even if it
loses yards, I will not take credit because if it wasn't my actual play,
even if it's Lenoris in like a sneak. Or a Carolina's version of some kind of tush push, where all 3 of those dudes just come and push it. All 3 just come in and push.
What's better than one man pushing the quarterback? 3 of them.
3.
That's math.
And Lenoris is he's big. He's big. So that's a good push at that point.
Get you some personnel behind him that can move him a little bit.
Hey, let's stay with the Florence theme. Cut number 7, as most of you now know, Lenoris' younger brother Jaden, a receiver, now on the team. So while in the hometown, what did Coach have to say about the younger sellers?
Yeah, Jaden's doing well. He's come in and gotten off to a really good start along with some of the other receivers that graduated high school early and went through spring practice, and that experience is only going to help him. You're going through some growing pains. You go right from playing high school ball at South Florence to you're in the middle of an SEC weight room, a month later, and then out on the practice field. But I feel like he got better each practice throughout the spring and finished on a high note, and arrows are certainly pointing up for him.
I just, whether it's him, of course, I guess Donovan Murph is the only one that signed that isn't currently on campus. He'll come in this summer. But that I've said all along, and I will continue to, because nothing that happened Friday, not that a spring game in and of itself changes minds, but I'm still going to be looking at the wide receiver core as the number one, group on this team and what they do, because I really feel that group has to take another step for everybody else to do it. I like what they've got up front. Obviously, the quarterback is a star. I think they have a good running back room, and I think there's a chance to share the ball a little bit back there, if you will.
You have a lot of change of pace backs back there. It's not that you have like productive guys. You have 3 guys that can do different things.
But I just think they really need, and this includes, of course, pass catchers in the tight end room as well. But I really just want to see that wide receiver room take another big step beyond what we know of Mazio and Nick, who can both obviously also take very big steps.
And that's my favorite part about this wide receiver room with the young guys, because 1 or 2 of them will be major contributors.
I agree.
I mean, it's such a talented class that they brought in, and who knows, like Donovan Murph's got a little bit of a deficit in terms of time with the team, but that kid is also incredibly talented.
He's going to be a good one. We'll talk more Gamecock news with our buddy Alan Cole of Gamecock Scoop, a rival site covering Carolina. Alan will join us when the Postgame Show returns. And speaking of Palmetto Citizens, let me tell you even more about what they can do for you, especially if you are a homeowner ready to make some improvements around the house, worried a little bit about the current rate environment. Well, if you've got some equity built up, take advantage of it with a Palmetto Citizens Federal Credit Union home equity line of credit. Different from a straight-up equity loan because you open up that line of credit and you're able to access your equity over a 10-year draw period. So if there's a bunch of jobs to do, but you don't really want to pay for them all at once, hey, you don't have to. You can start now with the kitchen or the bathroom, and then go on to the next one. Maybe you and the family want to put a pool out back or a big deck. Whatever it is that you want to do, take advantage of the equity in your home and do it for lower rates and fewer fees than you do with the big bank. You can learn more online at palmettocitizens.org. You can apply there right now or stop in and see them at any of their 14 convenient Midlands locations. Great folks at Palmetto Citizens. Talking some Gamecock spring football. Got some basketball transfer news to get to. A baseball game tonight, so plenty of storylines. Softball team doing well. Women's golf team just won the SEC. Man, there's a lot. I don't know how Alan Cole ever sleeps. Do you sleep at this point?
No.
Okay, that's good.
Not this time of year.
All right, so just hopped up on what's your favorite coffee brand? I don't know. You don't have to say if you don't want to. Something.
I'm going to hold out for an NIL deal on that one.
There you go.
No free pub. I love it.
There you go.
No free publicity.
That's a real capitalist right there. Who's got the most to pay me? Let's start with football thoughts. Look, a game itself we've talked about a lot doesn't really tell you anything, especially the way that Shane likes to do it to create more competition relative to just running the ones and the twos out there at the same point. But from Alan Cole's perspective, what did you most learn, perhaps, about where the team is this spring, and maybe B, what still concerns you most going into the fall?
Yeah, I don't know if it's something I learned, but maybe it's just something you see just because, none of us have seen these people in a live setting. I was really impressed with the freshman wide receivers. That's obviously been a big story. Excuse me, just because they have 6 of them in this class and 5 of them already early enrolled. You saw Malik Clark caught a touchdown. You saw Lex Cyrus went up and made a nice play in traffic. I thought that was a very just encouraging sign that, look, not all 6 of these guys are going to start or play regular snaps. That's just not how it works. But, I think with what you're seeing in Mike Furry's room and kind of the way they're developing there and what you saw from a guy like Mazeo Bennett last year, you're going to have a difference maker or two in that receiver room. I think someone's going to rise to the top there. So I thought that was good. And then concern-wise, it's just going to be defensive line until you see it. It's just that amount of production they have to replace. And I thought there were some good flashes. It's hard to know in a game where it's two-hand touch on the quarterback, but I think that's just going to be something we're going to talk about all summer as a concern.
Yeah, I mean, I'm kind of with you there. I mean, you lose so much that's going to be the looming question, I guess, for this team. Because offensively, I feel really good about it. And Jay and I kind of touched on it a little bit in our last segment. We were going through, receivers and running backs. I kind of like what they have in terms of the potential change of pace backs there. I don't think you're going to get 1,000 yards out of any of the 3 that we expect to play between, Faison and Attaway and Howell, or maybe if we get Fuller in there too. But, I mean, I think those are at least 3 different guys that give you 3 different types of looks at the line of scrimmage.
Yeah, for me, the whole thing with the running back room is you don't need a Rocket Sanders. You don't need an all-SEC running back with what you have in the passing game with Lenore Sellers. You need a running back that is good enough to keep a defense honest, that is good enough to – if Lenore Sellers wants to run a zone read, the defense might actually have to worry about the running back getting that play. I think that was something that was kind of missing in the bowl game where just Illinois kind of really keyed in on Lenoris and those runs. You have to hope. I think Faison's your best chance at that. But, no, I'm with you. I think it's going to be a lot of by committee. But the fact that you have Lenore Sellers there means you don't have to lean on the running game, I don't think, as much as you did last year.
Talking to Alan Cole, GamecockScoop.com, rival site covering Carolina. Help us read between the lines of the health of the offensive line. If a 4-star in-state recruit like Cam Pringle can enter the portal, what does that tell you? What does that tell us?
Yeah, I obviously that's not a good thing. Losing Cam Pringle. I do think it tells you that they feel pretty good about these transfers. I mean, Shane Beamer did give us the one little nugget that Boaz Stanley is probably going to be the starting center. That's one of your transfers. Rodney Newsom Jr. didn't look great on Friday, but that's still a transfer who's, by all sounds and accounts, is running with the ones right now. You hope he progresses. Nick Sharp didn't even play in the spring game. I think he's a plug-and-play guard, power forward transfer. So I think it kind of tells you they're feeling good about this recruiting class or this transfer portal class. I think even the recruiting class, Beamer mentioned Shed Surratt, and I thought he played pretty well on Friday night as someone who's going to be able to step in there. And then, obviously, your bookends at tackle, Josiah Thompson and Kason Henry back. So if, Cam Pringle not feeling like there's a role there or a spot, maybe that hurts you down the line, but I also think that does kind of speak to how they've sort of flipped this room after losing all 3 interior guys off last year's team.
And I know we talked about in terms of a concern maybe being the defensive line because of that production. I mean, losing Nick Emmond-Warry is going to hurt too, but I think the best thing they did this offseason was kind of replenish what they have in the defensive secondary. I like the addition of Miles Norwood. I love Brandon Cisse. And I honestly expect to see DQ Smith take a jump in production. And, of course, getting Jalen Kilgore back is going to help out a lot too. How ready do you think that unit is right now?
Yeah, I think what I like about that room especially is the flexibility. I mean, Clayton White was talking last week about how Brandon Cisse can play corner or nickel. I mean, that alone changes your whole calculus of just how you can do things, how you can line up. You can have Kilgore at nickel. You can put Kilgore at safety if you have to with DQ. You can move things around there. And then I agree with you on especially Miles Norwood. I mean, obviously the interception flashed on Friday night, but I thought he just played well in coverage in general, even just beyond that one play where he, jumped around and picked Aaron Nolan. So that is, of all the things you worry about with this team, it's still probably D-line at 1, maybe running back at 2, just because you don't have that true 1, even though you might be able to piece it together. But secondary, even losing Eamon Worry is pretty low on my list, honestly.
Alan, let's switch over to basketball. All right, let me get the name right. All right, Mike Sharamvance. Did I get it right? Sharamvance.
That sounds right.
Shariamps. Dang it. I was trying. What more have you learned about this young man on the men's basketball team? Elijah and I said he's a Mongolian Swiss Army knife, so there's a lot of international flair there. But but what roles do you see him filling and playing on Lamont's team next season?
Yeah, I think Swiss Army knife is probably about the best way to put it. I mean, minutes-wise, I don't know. It's April. I think everything's got to work itself out in the summer and the fall. But you are seeing a guy at Utah who could do a little bit of everything, scoring, rebounding. I think he's going to give, I just talked about flexibility with the football team and kind of what Brandon Cisse brings. I think he kind of brings that same thing where he can fit in different lineups for Lamont Paris. He's, like I said, he's flexible. He's got a 6'9" frame, but he kind of moves like someone who's not quite as big as that, if that makes any sense. So I don't know if that's exactly a Trace and Eaglestaff replacement, definitely not from a scoring perspective. But I think in general, I think he's going to fit here somehow. I think the Swiss Army knife's actually perfect. Like, he's kind of good at too many things and not fit somewhere if you don't know exactly how yet.
And then the one thing that I think they're still really needing is that point guard, too. I think you need somebody who's kind of like that ace facilitator. With the offense that Lamont likes to run, you really need somebody who can create for others really well, especially if you have some shot makers on the team. But how much of an emphasis do you think that is with this team going into the portal closing?
Yeah, I still think that's out there. That's a search. I don't know what's still out there at this point. I mean, like you said, the portal closes tomorrow for men's basketball, right? Yeah, so at this point, everybody who's in the portal's in the portal. You're not going to get a crazy influx of talent now, but I think that would be the one they want to add, and especially after, again, you lose Eaglestaff and someone you felt like could run your offense a little bit. That's still out there, and I think they're going to add someone else. Put it that way.
Alan's going to hang out with us here for the next segment. We got a big women's basketball transfer to tell you about. I think it's getting close to a done deal, if not officially a done deal.
It is. It's done.
It's done. All right, good. So we'll talk about that and a few notes on baseball, who gets back at it tonight at 6:30 against North Florida. Alan Cole hanging out with us from Gamecock Scoop. You're listening to the Postgame Show. All right, 13 minutes in front of 4 o'clock here on a Tuesday afternoon. Welcome back in to the Postgame Show. Jay Phillips, Coach Elijah Campbell inside the studio.
That's
and
right.
Good friend Alan Cole hanging out with us, talking Gamecock sports. Do you find yourself now calling Elijah Coach? Like when he called you today to get you, hooked in for the show, you were like, "What's up, Coach?" Or is he still just
No,
Elijah?
but I did think about asking him for some advice just on some play calling in life. What should I eat for dinner tonight, Elijah? You averaging 29 yards of play. You seem pretty good at this.
It's all about the element of surprise, my friend. Whatever you're thinking of right now, scrap that plan and go to the least thought of option.
What's the food equivalent of a double pass out of the wishbone?
Ice cream for dinner. Go ahead, get you a pint of Ben & Jerry's, half-baked specifically. It's the best one. You're not going to go wrong.
Who am I to argue with the guy averaging 29 yards of play?
There's a couple of half-bakeds, though, so which one?
Ooh, brownie and cookie.
Okay.
Yeah, the brownie
There's
and
a few these days, I think. All right, let's go to women's basketball. Medina Okot from Mississippi State started all 34 games last year. 11.3 points, 9.6 boards. I did this research, Alan, so I'm not just making it up. 0.7 assists, 1.4 steals, 1.1 blocks, 2.5 turnovers. Shoots 65% from the floor, obviously.
Can just get you a bucket when a set breaks down. And not only do you have that with SEC experience and someone who's done it at this level and in the league and was on a tournament team this year. So I think that's exactly what Dawn Staley needed. I personally don't think she's going to start immediately. That's not, I have not talked to anyone. This got finalized a couple hours ago. That's just my guess. But I think you look at the kind of the 2022-23 season where Camila Cardoso was coming off the bench but still playing like 20, 25 minutes. You kind of have that. I just think Chloe and Joyce have both earned the right to start the way they played last year, especially Chloe being a senior in those two post spots. So I don't think Okot starts. I think she plays more than enough minutes to make a huge impact kind of in that Cardoso 2023 way.
Yeah, and my favorite stat that I was able to find on her too, Mississippi State almost 17 points worse defensively when she was not on the floor per 100 possessions. So that's to say that she could be a defensive anchor, I think would absolutely be
game changer,
an understatement. Yeah. But I mean, looking at this roster right now, I mean, I think the loss of Mylasia is a big loss on its own, not just because of what she can do on a basketball floor, but what she means to the town as well. But I mean, if you're bringing in Tanaya Latson and someone who scores 25 points a game, or at least did this past year, you got to feel good about what they got coming back. I know Charlie Cream's got him at number one in his, I would say now the too early top 25 since we've surpassed the way too early part, right? But as it stands right now, I mean, would you consider this team to be the favorite to win it all in 2026?
Yeah, I do. Honestly, I think the Okot factor just changes everything. Like you said, both ends of the floor, but just having a matchup nightmare like that, you just, even when she's covered, she's just not going to be covered because she's 6'6" and can move the way she does. So there's that. Obviously, out of the nation's leading scorer. I think people are forgetting they're going to get Ashwood Watkins back too, which is going to help your defense enormously and just add more depth to that bench and that post room. So, it's never going to be easy. UConn, even though they're losing Paige, is still going to be really good. LSU's going to be really good. Texas can be really good, but yeah, I think top to bottom, now that you've added the nation's leading scorer and the best big in the portal, I think this is the best roster next year, sitting here on, what is today, April 22nd?
Yeah, Elijah's philosophy on way too early top 25s is the same as Happy New Year. You get about a week to say way
I can see that.
too early.
Because then it's not way, then after a while, it's not way too early, but it's still too early.
Still too early. And it is.
I like to classify things.
Again, they played games this month, so we said that already.
Yeah.
Alan, before we get you out of here, baseball finally got a series victory under their belt. That's the good news. The bad, Game 3, the loss, they kind of reverted back to form for most of this conference slate. Non-con tonight. Now you got to go to Kentucky this weekend, a team that just took 2 of 3 from Tennessee. How much of this is a corner turned? How much of this is still a team that only has 4 wins in conference play?
Yeah, I think it's the latter. I mean, it's good to see good baseball. It's good to see, 2 really good starting pitching performances from Stone and McCoy on Thursday and Friday, but they're 4-14. Like, there is no corner to be turned here. I hate to be that blunt, but, you just do the math on, what they'd have to do to actually get themselves back into contention here. Even just to squeak into a regional, it's just not realistic right now. I think they can play better baseball. I think you can kind of end the year on some good vibes, but there's no corner turned here for, trying to talk about stuff for May or June. I think that ship's already sailed.
Is there any update on Dylan Eskew? What do we know about him? Do we think Jarvis Evans gets himself back into the rotation now after a rough day, but maybe one that was unexpected for him?
Yeah, that is on the list to ask Paul tonight post game. That it's a lower back injury for Eskew, which is following on from the oblique injury he suffered at Arkansas last month. So it sounded more precautionary than anything last week. But obviously, you got to set a travel roster for a road series, and they're going to have to do that by Thursday. So that I'm sure will be a topic of discussion tonight, and Paul talks again tomorrow afternoon.
All right. Well, again, if you need any more coaching advice, dinner advice, or just, again, life advice.
Life is football, and football is life.
Well, I will tell you this: the way that Elijah's play call opportunity came about is because we were talking live on the air, Alan, and we reached out to someone over in the football building and said, could we make this happen? And the answer was yes, and it led Elijah and me to say to the kids, right? To the kids, the only dumb question is a question not asked. So, that's what we try to do here is just we offer the proper life advice when necessary.
I will keep that in mind as I ask about Dylan Eskew's injury update tonight.
That's right.
You got to ask it. It's not dumb if you ask.
That's right. Yeah. And if you get a funny look, don't blame us.
Sorry, Paul. We just got some sage advice.
Yeah. I mean, there you go. As you have your ice cream for dinner. There you go. Appreciate you as always, sir. Enjoy the ball game tonight.
Thanks
we'll talk soon. That's Alan Cole, Alan _ Cole on the Twitters and GamecockScoop.com, Rivals site covering Carolina. We got some college football playoff news, and dare I say, they've made a very minor historical note. I will explain at the top of the hour. You're listening to the Postgame Show. Integrated Media has long been Columbia's leader in today's technology for your home and for your business. Yes, businesses, they can help you too. TVs from Sony and Samsung, surround sound systems, or Sonos wireless speakers, Wi-Fi that works everywhere, cameras to keep your home more secure. Call Integrated Media today, 803-948-8327. Dave or one of the other great crew members will come out to your home or business, talk with you about your wants and needs. You want to cut the cord? They can help. Want one of those beautiful Samsung frame TVs that looks like museum quality art when it's not tuned into your favorite game or show? Yep, they do that too. Or fantastic outdoor systems that let you enjoy your favorite team, movie, or show, or your favorite music while you also enjoy our beautiful South Carolina weather. Whatever you're looking for in home theater, Integrated Media has it. And they've got great ways to take care of you for years to come. Do what I've done, 803-948-8327. Watch it better with Integrated Media. 4 o'clock on this Tuesday. Welcome back into the Postgame Show. Jay Phillips, Elijah Campbell with you in the Herndon Chevy Studios, downtown Columbia, South Carolina, wherever you are. We thank you for choosing to be with us this afternoon. We got a lot of national football stuff to get to. Get into some more sound from Shane Beamer in just a bit and remind you that Gamecock Baseball back at it tonight here in Columbia on 107.5 The Game and across the Gamecock Radio Network. 6:15 pregame show with Derek and Coach Stuart Lake. And 6:30 first pitch, Gamecocks and the Ospreys of North Florida. I saw an Osprey when I was down in Hilton Head.
Do a little bird watching.
Well, not really, but I knew what it was.
Birds of Trey.
Seen enough of them.
They're known in basketball.
Yeah, seen enough of them around. Yes, that's good. That's good. That was who Carolina lost to, right? To open the
It
year?
was, yeah.
Industry term coming here. Ugh. Not about North Florida, just that you shouldn't have lost that game.
No, especially considering North Florida didn't necessarily finish towards the top of the Atlantic Sun.
They end up being a quad 4 loss?
It did.
Yeah.
First game of the year.
That's not good.
Set a tone.
We said it was just an anchor the whole season, man. But by then, it was more, it was a little bit more than that.
A little bit more.
A little bit.
Hurt a little bit.
Anyway, college football playoff meetings have started in Dallas, going for a couple of days. So we don't know. Elijah and I were just talking. There may be some news that trickles out through the afternoon, but maybe, more of the concrete news gets to us on Thursday.
I'm dying to hear about this concrete.
It's good concrete, man. Way better than
honestly, I sit next to my computer every day waiting to hear concrete news. Phone's always on alerts, my favorite concrete sources.
But we do have, all right.
Oh, wait, we're
See,
not
if we
talking
do
about
this,
that, are we?
you and I could keep doing this, man. But there is, thank God, I know there is a faction of the audience that would love to keep up and do that with us. But some people probably don't, so we'll get you back into it. Because I could do that all day.
I can't help myself.
I can't either. I could do that all day. But there is news today. We should probably have some kind of I don't know. We probably don't have any music for this right now, but something of But the Rose Bowl has agreed, starting with the 2026 game, to kick off 1 hour earlier. And I told you, history, it will be the earliest kick time in the history of the Rose Bowl. Now, the Rose Bowl folk love them some 2 o'clock Pacific kickoff because they love that sunset, right as the third and fourth quarter, third quarter ends, fourth quarter begins, late game, sunset. Got a good game going. The Goodyear blimp will show you a cool shot. They got that kind of thing. But listen, we've said before, now to be a little bit serious, the Rose Bowl is just going to have to acquiesce to a few things or potentially miss out on being part of this rotation. I have made no secret of the fact that I don't really call these big bowl games anymore in any type of traditional sense because they are playoff games. And all of them, when they're done, yeah, you can get the trophy. Cool. But here's the thing. Do I want do I need a quarterfinal trophy and a semifinal trophy if I win these games? I don't want that, man.
I mean, in the sport of college football, we do give away trophies for rivalry games.
Yeah, well, I know. But, okay, I won 2 bowl games. No, that's not how I feel. I won 2 playoff games, and I feel great about that. So, yeah, sure, give me a trophy. But the point I make, of course, is that there's just not that sense of finality. I just as soon play, I've told you, as many games on campus as possible. Certainly the quarterfinal round. The quarterfinal round should be on campus. And I hope that these men and women are discussing that this week. I don't believe they are.
No. Well, because there's too much tied into the viewership of bowl games.
Yeah.
Of the New Year's Six.
And again, you remember, we all remember what they were doing with the New Year's Six during the 4-school CFP. Mm-hmm. All right? Every third year, you got one. You got a semifinal game. If they want to keep doing that, do that. But put games on campus. Let's play for something. And I did not like the buys last year And then those teams, I don't know if the trade-off is really the trade-off, because it felt like, for instance, the teams that got a bye all played in their conference title game. So that means the teams that didn't, they didn't play that week. Everybody gets a week off somewhere along the way. Now you get a week off earlier, later, whatever you want to look at it like. I play on campus. And again, that's why they should go to 16. Give me a couple of rounds on campus. And then if you want to incorporate these sites because they've meant something to football, okay. And look, I'm way older than you, man. And I might be older than most of you listening right now. I don't know. But it wouldn't sadden me in the least, Elijah Campbell. With all, again, I have to use this term a lot, with all due respect, it wouldn't sadden me in the least if you told me that we were going to play every game on campus until the title game. And if every 6 years you just want to rotate through this, let's do that. Because they're all, except for the Rose Bowl, am I right? They're all in NFL ballparks, right?
Yep, I believe so.
And the Rose Bowl's built a thing to get luxury suites. Yeah, I mean, okay, Fiesta Bowl, NFL.
Cardinals.
Sugar Bowl, NFL.
Saints.
Orange Bowl, NFL.
Dolphins.
Peach Bowl, NFL.
Falcons.
And what am I missing?
Oh, Cotton Bowl.
Cotton Bowl,
Cowboys.
NFL.
So really, that's, Pasadena is the only non-pro sports.
And again, it's a big
venue.
stadium. They sell expensive tickets, and they built around it to put some suites in.
I'd be cool if you had it in the Rose Bowl every year.
That's fine with me. I don't care. Yeah, sure, do that.
Great championship venue.
Do that, and then return those games otherwise to bowls. Make them count for something. Whatever. I don't care. But for those who say we're dumbing down the regular season, all that kind of stuff, which I do not agree with, because I think this opens it up to a lot more schools, and I think that means the regular season is more important.
I think we had probably the most meaningful regular season.
I agree.
In the history of the sport.
I think they kept it. They shifted it, but they kept it as the most meaningful regular season. Absolutely. But I just think the reward for doing better, to keep even more important, to kind of blend the two, is to play more games on campus. But anyway, to come back around to it, good for the Rose Bowl. It's only 1 hour. You think that they'd go, I don't know. It's an hour.
Well, getting them to change anything was kind of the biggest hurdle between college football and the 21st century.
But I think somebody, Greg Sankey, Tony Petitti, and Bob Iger.
Mickey Mouse.
Mickey. South Park Mickey showed up.
Yeah, that's right. Don't play any games.
And said, listen, we love you. We do. And we know your history and tradition. We do. You need to change. Or we're going to love you different. And it won't be a good different.
Love you less.
Yeah.
That Sun Belt and MAC automatic qualifier to get into the Rose Bowl is going to hit a little differently if you don't bend to our will.
Nothing says Rose Bowl like Troy versus Akron.
Honestly, would be kind of fun.
Sure. Well, Troy is the Trojans, so there's that for Southern Cal. You just replace one with another.
That's true. And you include the Zips, which has one of the best mascots in all of college football.
It's a fun name. Now, if you get Central Michigan versus Arkansas State,
that's not going to bring
not quite the same.
I would love for Coastal Carolina to get to play for a chance to go to the Rose Bowl every year.
Arkansas State is in the Sun Belt, right?
They are.
Thank you.
Confirmed.
I thought so.
Coached by SEC legend?
Who is it?
Butch Jones.
Okay. Butch Jones always looks angry.
Butch Jones always is angry.
Maybe.
I think that
so what else do we get out of this week? I think that's one of the big questions. We talked about this yesterday. Everybody seems to be on board with changing the seating. But multiple articles that I've read on this suggest that because everything has to be unanimous this year, that the conferences beyond the Southeastern Conference and Big Ten Conference are in favor of changing the seating, but they might not vote for it since it has to be unanimous this year. But the Big Ten and SEC, I think, aren't really going to care that much in the grand scheme. One of the things that could be some form of compromise, I also read this morning, I think it was in Ross Dellinger's piece, or Chris Vanini's piece at The Athletic, was last year the top 4 seeds. So that would be Georgia, Ohio State, Arizona State.
Oregon was the
or Oregon, sorry. Georgia, Oregon, Boise, Arizona State, all got a $4 million bonus. The 4 highest ranked conference champions would still get a $4 million bonus, even if they weren't seed 1, 2, 3, or 4.
That is a really good selling point. That's a fair compromise.
Yeah, and at that point, go ahead and do
compromise.
it. Like if you and you know what, just why don't you throw in something for the other conference champions too?
Yeah, because you know what that does in terms of incentivizing the vote to go your way. You give that incentive for like the Mountain West commissioner to be able to agree to something like that. Brett Yormark has to agree to something like that.
And it's only going to be for a year because starting in 2026, and this is done already, so this isn't like an opinion or that could be, the SEC and the Big Ten have wrested most of the control from everybody else. Basically, starting in 2026 and through the end of the CFP's new deal, which I think runs through the 2031 season, they basically control it. And so whatever they want is pretty much what's going to happen. I suppose you could revolt a little, but why would you? Because I think the annual payout just for the CFP is like $1.3 billion.
It's a lot of money
to share. It's a lot of money. So don't rock that boat. And it's not like the SEC and the Big Ten are going to do something that just really screws everybody over. Now, are they going to take the bulk of it? Yes. Yes, they are.
And are they going to try? Yeah.
Yes, they'll again, I like to use this term sometimes. They'll massage things to fit their needs.
We'll see what they can get away with.
You know, you'll see. Can you get a square peg in a round hole? No, but if you keep twisting that square peg enough, eventually it kind of whittles down, and then you can make it fit. It'll look weird,
but it'll fit.
But it'll get in there. So don't tempt them. But that starts. So, you know, that's the big thing this year. Honestly, Elijah, beyond that, I just don't think they're going to get a unanimous vote to add 2 schools unless there's a lot more money in it. And because I think they would feel that they being the conferences beyond the SEC and Big Ten, that more likely than not, like this year, if there had been 14, it was going to be 2 of the 3 of Carolina, Bama, Ole Miss.
Absolutely.
I'm pretty sure all 3 of those are in the SEC.
Last I checked.
Last time I checked as well.
I don't think we've changed that.
Yes. So they're like, it's just more for you, not us. Which is why I say go to 16 starting next year. But anyway, so history made, one little bit. Rose Bowl game will kick off now at 1 o'clock Pacific, 4 o'clock Eastern, the earliest kickoff time in the history of the Rose Bowl. How many Rose Bowls have we played, Elijah Campbell? Do you know this?
We've got to be probably around, I mean, I was thinking like 80s, 90s.
I don't know.
I know only two of them have been played away from Pasadena.
I know one was in Durham during the war. What was the other one? I don't know.
World War II and COVID. Where it was played in Jerry World.
That's right, man.
Alabama, Notre Dame.
That's right. Yeah, okay. Let's see. The Rose Bowl game, 1916.
Oh, wow. So we have surpassed.
Over 100. There you go. All right.
History.
Good stuff. I did, by the way, did kick later a couple of times, but it's never kicked earlier until this coming season. All right, we'll get you caught up on what's going on around the NCAA legislation news. Again, they're being, wink, wink, proactive. We'll tell you some of the things they've done, and we'll get back into some Shane Beamer sound in just a bit, too. You're listening to the Postgame Show. Welcome back in. Postgame Show rolling on here on a Tuesday afternoon. Jay and Elijah with you, talking some national college football news. The college football playoff meetings happening in Dallas. Again, if you just tuned in, the Rose Bowl has agreed to move its kickoff up 1 hour to 1 p.m. Pacific, 4 p.m. Eastern, the earliest ever kickoff for the Rose Bowl. That's the only bit of news that's come out. And you may say, is that all they're going to do? You know, it might be, man. I don't know.
Likelihood is high.
Yeah, I mean, I certainly hope not. I don't. That might be it. That might be it. But they got to do this for 3 days. So what are you going to do tomorrow? Like, if this is the only bit
Fancy
of news
lunches.
we get today, yeah. I mean,
Get some real fancy lunches out of it.
I'm doing shoulder shruggy guy at this point. Like, I don't know.
Yesterday in Indianapolis, the NCAA's board of directors voted on what would eventually be the deletion of 153 rules. Now, look, there you go. Don't. You know, let's not amend these things. Just strike them from the book, right?
Yeah.
I know most people, you know, like
There is no amending them.
Yeah, your age and younger don't really know what a phone book is. But back in the day, Elijah Campbell, we had phone books. And depending on where you live, they could be very, very big. And I feel like the NCAA's rule book was, you know, like Manhattan big, right? Not like, say, Spartanburg big, just to give you an idea of the two. Or what town did you grow up in?
Oh, Jamestown.
Yeah. I mean, I'm sure,
Small phone book. Yeah,
Small phone
it was a small phone book.
That's not a knock. It is what it is.
There's
right?
not a lot of people that live there.
Yeah. I mean, I'd rather have a small town phone book as a rule book for something like this. But instead, no, they chose Manhattan, Chicago, San Francisco. You get it.
Takes up an entire shelf in the bookcase.
That's right. But they're going to delete 153 rules. Most of them are about money. Others are about roster limits. There's also going to be, you know, a lot of this comes from the House settlement. The one that still gets me most concerned is this NIL clearinghouse, you know, and the determination of fair market value. Somebody's going to challenge that. You know, it might be some kind of off the wall challenge. It might be something just straight up. No, somebody told me they'd pay me twice as much. Who are you to tell me that I can't make it? I don't know. Proposed legislation also includes allowing full scholarships to all student athletes on a declared roster. I like that. Again, baseball is going to go from 11.7 to, I think, 30. Now, that's a lot more full scholarship money. And if you're wondering, too, I can't speak for every school, but most schools, if you think, well, the school just basically doesn't charge them, that's not how it works. How it works is an athletics department, again, ordinarily pays for it. In other words, let's take Carolina or Clemson. Gamecock Club, IPTAY, they take in their money every year through membership dues, ticket sales, et cetera, et cetera. And then the NCAA allots the requisite number of scholarships. And then the Gamecock Club, IPTAY, whatever booster club, then forwards that money to the university to pay for those kids to go to school. The university is still taking money in for tuition and fees and housing, et cetera. It's paid for by the Gamecock Club, which is technically sort of a separate arm. It's not really, it's under the umbrella, but they're still getting a little bit wet.
Not complete coverage.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know,
They have their own smaller umbrella. Those little ones, you know?
Little novelty umbrellas.
Yeah, you get those real big ones. Yeah, they get their little, like, tropical drink umbrella, and they just hold it up to the side.
Not very effective in practice. Trust
no,
me. Try.
but it works. It works. No, but so that's how that works. So they don't get to go to school for free where the school just says, oh, sure, here. You know, you're not doing that with 500 people, which is about how many athletes Carolina has as an example. About 500, give or take. Let's see. One thing I also learned, the Ivy League, not that it matters too much for us, but the Ivy League has chosen to opt out of paying players. So they will keep their system the old way.
Good luck.
Yeah,
Well, I still feel like most of those kids are like, oh, well, I'm going to Yale or Harvard or Columbia or whatever. I'll be all right.
I'm sure a lot of them that do go to those schools normally.
They'll be all right. So, I mean, most of this, Elijah, again, the NCAA, now I'm going to rag on them for a minute. They want this to appear proactive. I really do believe that in some way that when they finally put out a full-on statement on this, that they will claim some level of proactivity.
Try to, at least.
Yeah.
Because the public is not dumb.
No, but they think we are.
They absolutely do.
They really do. That's maybe the thing that's through the years has bothered me the most is because these are all such high academic types, which is fine. They just really do think, oh, no. You just listen to what we're telling you, and well, how's that working out for you? Full of Dr. Phil. How's that working out for you? No, it's not.
No, hadn't been.
So, seriously, this is fine. This is good. We certainly expect this to be fully approved almost any day now by Judge Claudia Wilken out in California. I still think we're headed towards something different soon enough. And whether it's – I just don't – you and I both agree on this. Others may see it differently. I do not think there's going to be an antitrust exemption granted by Congress, at least not to the extent that the NCAA wants, maybe something very limited in scope. But once again, at that point, too, let me ask you this. Let's say that there was still some restriction placed upon college athletes in terms of their ability to do what they, transfers and some of these other things in NIL. And if there's not going to be any kind of CBA, could you see, and I'm serious when I ask you this, could you see at that point someone working with the NFL and the NBA, maybe the WNBA as well, to let go of their entry requirements? Would this spur them forward to begin to draft athletes out of high school and place them onto some type of minor league team, or into the UFL? I don't care what, the NBA has a G League. You could so easily draft a high school senior and put them right into the G League if you don't want them in the NBA
Some
for a year.
Some of them have gone that route.
Yeah. Just do that, right? Just do that. But for the NFL, I realize that most 18-year-olds are not, and when I say most, probably 95+%, are simply not ready to go play football with grown men that are making 8-figure salaries. I get it. They're not. A few might be here and there. Help me out. I just blanked. Ohio State receiver last year.
Oh, Jeremiah Smith.
Yeah, he could go. He played in the NFL right now.
He's pretty good.
He could play right now.
College football's got to deal with him for 2 more years.
Yeah, and there's a few like him here and there, right? A few. But do you see something like that being a possibility where they would just say, all right, well, because again, one of the things I say, you can't restrict the rights of free American adults. But if they try to, even through the law, which at that point is a little different area, would the NFL go, see what we can do about this?
I think the NFL would be like, why would you want us to change? I mean, if they're even half married to the idea of being out of high school for a couple of years, why would they bend? Like, they're the NFL. Why do they bend over backwards to accommodate you?
Or just, again, how many teams are in that UFL or whatever it's called now? USFL? USFXL? I don't know.
Enough to put at least a couple teams on TV every weekend.
Put them there. Let them start paying players out of high school.
Now, that would be a better question, yeah, for the USFL, or I guess it's just the UFL.
I don't know what it is.
Yeah.
I will.
The spring football.
I don't watch it.
That is definitely more of a question for them, because the NFL, I've always kind of gathered, doesn't have any interest in letting in people early, especially considering taking up roster spots since they don't have a minor league.
Right.
Taking up roster spots and kind of creating a backlog of players who aren't making it in. I mean, that's kind of, I guess, the one thing.
I get it. I do. Again, I still think the NFL needs a minor league, but I'm not here for...
Even for that purpose. That's another arm to or another tentacle to the octopus that you've created of the NFL needing some type of minor league, because now You're not taking away as many roster spots because if somebody really wants to draft an 18-year-old out of high school, but they don't want to play him right away, it's going to take somebody's spot.
Right.
And it's going to be taking somebody's spot while also not playing for a couple of years.
Or somebody's signing bonus.
Yes.
Back into some Gamecock football sound. We'll keep you updated on what's going on with the CFP and the other NCAA stuff. You're listening to the Postgame Show.
From the Wetzel's Automotive Traffic Studios, I'm Elijah Campbell. The few accidents to get to you, they're causing some issues on the roadways, starting with one on Harbison Boulevard at US 176 near Broad River Road, another one on Highway 1 at Augusta Road near Parkland Road and Decker Boulevard, and lastly, we have one over in Lexington County on Longs Pond Road near Muddy Springs Road.
Talking some changes around the national college football scene or the NCAA at large, as yesterday the board of directors okayed the removal of more than 150 rules, the vast majority of them pertaining to paying players, some of them about roster limits and a few other things here and there, all again contingent upon the House settlement being fully ratified out in California here in the coming days. A little bit later on, we got some updated Heisman odds, by the way. Elijah and I were just having some fun with that in the break.
Some intriguing ones, to say the least.
There are. And one I just had, like you can hear me now, I'm kind of, chuckling about one of them. We'll talk about it in a second.
So I don't think it was the desired result of the person whose odds
I think you nailed
we'll
it.
be discussing.
I think you nailed it. Let's stay with the theme, though. We'll go back to Shane Beamer speaking last night over in Florence. The Welcome Home Tour is underway. And, look, nobody likes the state of affairs when it comes to just wild, wild west, it feels like, with transfers and all kinds of things. That you do need some form of guardrail or parameters, whatever words you want to put on there. Here's Shane on Cut 5, Elijah, thank you, on just, having to basically kind of retool the roster every single year.
Yeah, in a lot of ways, it's truly year to year, the roster that you're building because of that, but then just the rules, the laws, whatever, they're ever changing. I feel like every year that I've been the head coach of South Carolina, it's something different, the terrain that we're navigating and then the rules we have. And even now, it's tough because you're trying to base decisions on building your roster, but you're basing those decisions what you think is going to happen with a lawsuit all the way out in California. And that could go either way. So it's a challenge right now for sure. You just kind of take it day by day, and here's what the aspects are today, knowing that it may change next week, next month, next year.
Yeah, soon enough we'll get something. Again, congressional help I do not count upon, and I just don't know what else the NCAA can do beyond beginning to turn its attention towards some form of collective bargaining. I know you can't fully do it if the players aren't employees, and I realize that they don't want to make them employees. I also realize, Elijah, why a lot of student athletes don't want to become employees. But is there a way, without too much restriction, to begin to put something in place? I don't know. Back not too long ago, well, you still do. Now you still sign, we have NIL, right? But we have the NLI, the National Letter of Intent. Could there not be some, and I don't know how this, what the details would be, but could you not have some kind of language on, all right, listen, you get one transfer, but you can go wherever you want. You get one transfer without sitting out, but a second transfer you do have to sit, and things like that. And then, you sign it, you agree to it. And is that a form of agreement? Like, we're not going to restrict how much money you can make, because you could put all those things in there. People just wouldn't sign it. And, some, star players, again, would just go to the UFL, or some other league would pop up, or the UFL will expand and start taking you and might not even draft you. Hey, 5-star from Atlanta, quarterback, tailback, I don't care what back. Here's $500,000 to come play in our league. And you'll retain your eligibility for the NFL, because the NFL's requirement, again, a lot of people constantly say, why do they have to go to college? They don't. The requirement is that you must be 3 years removed from high school. It has nothing to do with college. You must be 3 years removed from high school. That's the NFL entry requirement. They want you to be around 20, 21 years old before you come into their league, because they want you to be, I mean this in a good way, they want you to be a man.
They want you to be physically ready because of
because you're going to get hurt.
Punishment this league inflicts on everybody
and
that plays in it.
You can't still be a growing boy, even if you are, by the letter of the law, able to get drafted into the military. You still might be, 6'2" and $165 soaking wet. And here comes,
Suggs.
Yeah, you don't need that in your life.
No, it's not good for anybody.
So that's why they do it. And I get it. again, the NBA doesn't need an entry requirement. I don't know. I don't even really know why the NBA put it back in place.
I think it was them trying to do the NCAA a solid.
Yeah, and I don't think has it mattered. I haven't.
Nope.
No. In fact, if anything, I think it's hurt the NCAA. I really do. I'd rather have seen, from my very, very young youth, Moses Malone go straight to the league, or later years, LeBron and KG go straight to the league. Kobe, glad Shaq played. Didn't have to.
No,
But
you could have gone to the NBA.
Glad he did. I could go on a Grant Hill. Those guys, they didn't have to. But, anyway, y'all see the point. So could we get to something like that? I don't know. Or you can sign something. Work on that. Like, spend your time with your lawyers working on that.
They spent so much time trying to fight it.
Instead of fighting antiquated laws that again, even decent lawyers knew you were going to lose. And you're not paying decent lawyers.
No. Spending a lot of money there.
Yeah. You're going $500 an hour.
They're still trying
plus.
to preserve, I guess, an idea or a model of athletics that just no longer works whenever the participants are suing their, conferences or school or, the NCAA for TV rights. Like, amateurism died in the 80s when Georgia and Oklahoma took the NCAA to court for their TV rights.
And at the same time when the Olympics allowed pros. Seriously, just to make your point even further.
Amateurism died then.
Yes.
And that was the 80s.
Yes.
It's been dead for a while.
Long time.
If you are making that much money on your TV contracts, you should probably realize that is getting phased out and is going away.
And the NCAA got slapped around in that case with Georgia and Oklahoma.
Mm-hmm. That was the first domino.
Yeah.
I mean, to what we have today, truly.
Yeah.
Those lawsuits were the first domino that ultimately created this environment.
Yeah, and if y'all, those of you who don't know, basically back then the NCAA said, "Oh no, you can't play on TV but a couple times a year." Why? Well, we want to spread it around. Well, yeah, but TV doesn't want that, and we don't want that. Well, it doesn't matter. And they lost because Georgia and Oklahoma at the time were amongst the superpowers.
Mm-hmm.
They're like, yeah, people want to see Herschel Walker every week.
Yeah,
because they did.
They want to watch Oklahoma. They want to watch the ball all over the place.
They did. They wanted to see the Selmans and Bosworth and those dudes. Yeah. And whoever else. Yes. So anyway, one more here. This is. Do I have time? Yeah, I got time here. All right. So again, the settlement coming. Here's Shane Beamer from a Gamecock-centric perspective on different ways that they're looking to make things happen once the settlement becomes the rule.
I would say with us, it's you've kind of got all kinds of different plans. You got your plan of how you're going to go about things if this happens. You have your plan of how you're going to go about things if this happens. You have your plan if that happens, and then you just, Coach Spurrier used to always tell me as an assistant coach, be flexible, Beamer, just be flexible, and those words have never, what's the word, ring truer than right now. But that's the case. You certainly you don't want to get boxed into anything. You certainly want to be flexible and have a plan for all the different things that could potentially happen for sure. And we'll cross that bridge when it comes to it. And I know this, I like the guys on our team and would love to be able to keep a lot of them around for a little bit longer.
Schools can spend up to $20.5 million on revenue sharing with players, really across their entire athletics department, although the belief is that this will primarily be amongst the big five sports: football, men's and women's basketball, baseball, ice hockey. I'm sure a select few others here and there in gymnastics or softball or track even that some certain schools will share as well. But by and large, it'll be those big five that have always been sort of the ones that have seen more revenue than others. Come back on the other side. FanDuel's Heisman odds are out. We'll tell you who's at the top, but we'll also tell you who may have made a mistake in terms of moving around. And you can probably already read between those lines. This is the Postgame Show. All right, 12 minutes in front of 5 o'clock here on a Tuesday afternoon. Welcome back in. Jay and Elijah with you. Coming up top of the hour, headlines of the day, 5:15, more thoughts on Gamecock football. Don't forget tonight, 6:15, after we're done, Carolina baseball. Also want to remind you that speaking of baseball, the Palmetto Citizens Federal Credit Union Grand Slam giveaway is still going strong. If a Carolina batter gets a grand slam, you could win the cash in the pot. It's $25 a game, and right now we're at $225. We've given away 2 or 3 this year. Two. One was early.
What? Yeah, within the first 2 or 3 games.
Yeah.
Which was ironic because last year we went almost the entire season without giving anything away.
So you can register at 1075thegame.com. That's all you got to do. Just find it. You'll see, as Terry Ford says, one of the clicky, spinny things somewhere there on the website.
It's very descriptive, but funny enough, accurate enough for you to know once you get on the homepage.
That's right. So there you go. So Heisman odds are out. I'm trying. So many guys have moved around, man. I was just asking, and I just confused myself. We already mentioned Jeremiah Smith, and I was like, "Where is he?" I was like, I just got. That's how I'm getting old. But the same initials as Julian Sayin, which I think is where I was trying to go with the initials. That's his quarterback. Yes.
Yes, that'll be his quarterback this year at Ohio State.
I was like, wait, where am I? Anyway. So a tie at the top for best Heisman odds according to FanDuel and their sports book. Garrett Nussmeier and Arch Manning at plus 800. That doesn't surprise me.
No, well, Nussmeier especially, because like the one thing that LSU did really well in the portal was load up on receivers.
Yeah.
I mean, Berrien Brown's going to be there. Got Nick Anderson from Oklahoma, who was going to be their number 1 before he got hurt during the season this past year. They loaded up when it comes to those offensive skill position players. I could see that.
I'm trying to remember where most of these guys, some of these guys I know, and some of these guys that like Fernando Mendoza at plus 5,000. I don't know whose quarterback that is, or who was that? Do I know who that is?
Mendoza. Oh, I think that was the guy that's at Cal.
Okay.
Double check that.
Well, anyway, Cade Klubnik of Clemson is next by himself at plus 1,000. Then Jeremiah Smith and Julian Sayin are at plus 1,200. Dante Moore of Oregon plus 1,600 with Lenoris Sellers, DJ Lagway.
Fernando Mendoza's at Indiana now. He was at Cal last year. He is now transferred to Indiana.
Transferring within the Big Ten. But, again, Dante Moore, Lenoris Sellers, DJ Lagway, Drew Aller, Penn State, all at plus 1,600. Carson Beck at plus 2,500. I could go on and on. But one of the ones that we were talking about that made Elijah and me laugh is that Joey Aguilar was at UCLA and Nico Iamaleava was at Tennessee. And while not literally a trade, it was certainly being portrayed that way by multiple people that cover the sport of college football. Andy and Ari just had a blast with that on their On 3 show this morning. Andy Staples and Ari Wasserman.
Portrayed. I see what you did.
They just did a full-on, they just called it a trade. Like as if the two ADs called up and said, hey, can we have your quarterback and you have our quarterback? Sure, why not?
All right, yeah. Swap it up.
Like I remember when I was a little
Any
kid.
cash considerations?
Again, this goes way back. Those of you who have to be around my age remember this. But I still remember when Gary Templeton was traded to the Cardinals for Ozzie Smith. From the Cardinals for Ozzie Smith, who then went to St. Louis. And I'm like, why'd you just trade shortstops? Like I was like 10, I think. Like, that doesn't make any sense. Like, you already have a good short. Because I had their baseball cards. And
So you already knew. You knew.
Yeah, I knew who they were. And I watched, like, This Week in Baseball and the Baseball Bunch with the great Johnny Bench, who was one of your, team's all-time greats.
Did a lot of winning.
And, so I knew who those guys were. I was like, that's weird. And it worked out well for Ozzie.
It worked out well for the Cardinals.
I don't know what happened to Gary Templeton. He didn't hang around much longer.
He wasn't Ozzie Smith.
I don't know, and there probably were other people involved in the trade that I don't remember at that point. It just, But anyway, so Heisman odds, you might think, like, I've never really heard of Joey Aguilar, but I have heard of Nico Iamaleava, who played in the Southeastern Conference and was part of the first ever 12-school college football playoff. Certainly, Nico Iamaleava has to have better Heisman odds than Joey Aguilar, right? No. Joey Aguilar, plus 4,500. Nico, plus 8,000. Thank you, Kawhi.
Kawhi finds that funny.
He does. I do too. I just wonder. I don't know now. I suppose we could ask some of the people that do the bookmaking. If all other things were equal, and Nico was still at UT going into a second big season and expectations of a college football playoff run, blah blah blah, where would he be? Would he be at plus 4,500? Would he be higher than that? Surrounded by the talent, because now he's going into a system in a situation where it's really not good.
It's not as quarterback friendly. And again, the talent thing is a real thing. There's nowhere near as much talent, the skill position players at UCLA. That was, again, an offense that almost ranked outside the top 100 in SP Plus on offense last year.
Yeah. But Lenoris, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, let's call it the sixth best odds at this point to win the Heisman Trophy.
He's one of the favorites to be a finalist.
I would say so. There you go. Headlines of the day. More Gamecock football coming up, hour 3.
From the Wetzel's Automotive Traffic Studios, I'm Elijah Campbell. The few accidents to get to you that are causing some issues on the roadways, starting with Assembly Street near Calhoun Street. Got one on Harbison Boulevard at US 176 near Broad River Road that's been causing some issues for about the last hour or so. Got one on Highway 1 at Augusta Road near Parkland Road and Decker Boulevard. And lastly, one on Longs Pond Road near Muddy Springs Road.
And it is 5 o'clock news time on this Tuesday. Welcome back in. Final hour of the Postgame Show as well, alongside Elijah Campbell. I'm Jay Phillips. We appreciate you being with us. We start with big news for Dawn Staley's women's basketball program at South Carolina. It is now official. Medina Okot will join the Gamecocks as a transfer from Mississippi State for the coming season. Coach Staley announcing just a little bit ago the following, quote, Medina gives our front court additional size and speed. She has the ability to score, rebound, and defend, and her competitiveness and SEC experience are added bonuses. We're excited to bring her to our Gamecock family, and I know the fams are going to love watching her play. This past season for the Bulldogs, Medina averaged 11.3 points, 9.6 boards, 0.7 assists, 1.4 steals, 1.1 block, 2.5 turnovers per game, shooting 65% from the floor and 63% from the line. She did not attempt a three-point shot for the Bulldogs this season. She is 6'6", and she started all 34 games for Mississippi State. This is the get, if you will, that they feel they needed most. A true five. Last year, don't know that they had one. Joyce was doing her part. Ashlyn went down, and that made things a little more difficult. But, you know, when you've had Aaliyah Boston and followed by Camila Cardoso, you know, you just had that true presence down there. That's not to say that would have made you win the national title last year, Elijah, but it certainly helps you do things differently, especially in Dawn's philosophy of inside-out basketball. Mm-hmm. And they just didn't quite have that. You know, you don't want to take from what Joyce and Chloe were doing and Sanaya were doing, but this is a true big-time big in the SEC. All things, literal, figurative, all about it. And again, 34 starts in the conference. So she has seen the battles already and the rigors of the SEC.
And has already proven to be an impact player on the defensive end of the floor. I mean, it's not just, you know, the block numbers, but the amount of shots she alters on a game-to-game basis is pretty high. And when you look at, you know, how Mississippi State was defensively when she was on the floor compared to when she was off, it's a dramatic difference. Almost 17 points different per 100 possessions when she's off the floor defensively. So normally Mississippi State's given up 81.5 points per 100 possessions, which is incredible defense. When she's on, it's almost at a point per possession when she's off.
Yeah.
That's a massive difference.
It is.
She like that defense for the Bulldogs last year came and went as she was on the floor or off the floor.
She averaged about 23 minutes a game, and you and I were talking with Alan Cole earlier. You know, and I asked him, do you think she starts right away? And of course, it's an early, you know, opinion to you know, in terms of him answering that. And I'll pose it to you as well, knowing that you will have next year, you know, Chloe, she's not a five. Joyce can be a five. Ashlyn can play the five. Miriam Dowdle's coming back, and now you add in Medina Okot. So they can share the minutes, but let's say she doesn't start or doesn't start every night. as long as she's playing those 20 minutes-ish per game, the impact is there, yeah?
Absolutely. And honestly, her coming off the bench and getting about 20 minutes a game, it falls in line with what she's gotten in the SEC already in terms of workload, minutes, allocation. I mean, she knows how to be able to find her rhythm in 20 minutes of a basketball game.
Right.
And I don't think you're expecting her to come in here and start right away. She's going to play a role in this team, like a lot of players kind of have to get acclimated to. Some that come here have in their college careers or high school careers are playing all the time, every game, learning how to fall in line with, not just an offensive and defensive system, but how the minutes are distributed can be a little different for some. But for someone like Okot, it's a pretty good fit in terms of the role she had at Mississippi State and the role she'll have on this South Carolina team. I'm really fascinated to see exactly what her defensive impact is with this group, because it's already a great defensive group, and it pretty much solidifies that this is going to be the best defense in women's college basketball next season.
She is from Kenya, had a terrific youth career playing over there at the ZTech University in Nairobi, and has done a lot of things before she came over to the United States. Of course, Tania Latson and Ayla McDowell are the other new additions at this point to Carolina women's basketball. But this is a good get, and for what it's worth to you, in the not way too early, but just too early.
Yes, we can drop the way now.
That's right. Again, Elijah uses way too early top 25 like he does Happy New Year. You can only say it for a little bit. So we've already passed the way too early
It
stage.
has an expiration date.
But in the too early top 25 that came out this morning, South Carolina was back to number one because of some of these additions. So take it as you will.
I think rightfully so. I think I can agree with that sentiment.
South Carolina or the field next year. It might take South Carolina.
I'd feel good about it.
Yeah, so far. But we'll see. We'll see. Anyway, welcome to Columbia, Medina Okot. Carolina baseball back at it tonight. The North Florida Ospreys will be in town. Remember, 6:30 is the first pitch. We'll have the game for you starting at 6:15 with Derek and Coach Lake on the call. Jackson Susie goes for the Gamecock tonight. Good numbers, minus the walks, perhaps. 3-0, junior lefty, 3-0 with a 3.98, 20 and a third, 25 strikeouts, and 10 walks. Again, everybody pretty much needs to bring the free pass numbers down for Gamecock baseball. For UNF, Tommy Groom is a redshirt senior righty, no record, a 4.91, just 3 2/3. 6 strikeouts, 2 walks. My hunch, Elijah Campbell, is that the Ospreys will throw many pitchers tonight against South Carolina.
Looks like it's a bullpen game for the Ospreys.
Carolina took 2 of 3 from Mississippi. The Ospreys took 2 of 3 this weekend from the University of West Georgia.
Newly anointed D1 school.
I don't know where that is. It in LaGrange or Columbus? Or?
I know it's in the western part of Georgia.
That's what I like to tell people.
That's what I know.
If I hear a directional school and I don't know where it is, but they tell me the state, I can at least tell you what state it's in.
It's in Carrollton, Georgia.
Okay, Carrollton.
Yeah, sure. If you're familiar.
Yeah. Well, I knew those other places were at least in the western-ish section of Georgia. I know Columbus is, because Columbus is right near the border. So there you go. Carolina and UNF tonight. Gamecocks will be at Kentucky later this weekend. The Atlanta Braves are on a full-on winning streak, y'all, as we continue the integrated media headlines of the day. That's the good news. Braves last night were down 3-2 late, went up 7-3. Then the Cardinals scored 3 in the top of the ninth. And somebody that's talking into this microphone right now is starting to get a little bit nervous.
I wonder who that might be.
And then he didn't have to. So they won the game.
Hey, so that's what, a 4-game winning streak now?
4, man.
So you're only 3 more wins consecutively from straight up canceling out that 7-game losing streak to start the year.
Yep. I look, in all seriousness, I told you on and off air, I was like, look, the Braves will eventually go on like a 4 or 5-game winning streak.
They'll get
and then it'll begin to even out, and hopefully by June, it's sort of a distant memory. This is a good baseball team. They've had some chemistry issues this year. They're going through some injuries still. And if you didn't hear, the good news, the Braves won yesterday. And that's the best news. But bad news right behind it, Spencer Strider went back on the IL. Now, I saw it yesterday because the first thing I saw was Spencer Strider placed on IL, and I'm like, oh, no. Apparently he tweaked his hamstring somehow. I don't know. Now, because, again, he just had Tommy John. So it's not, thank God.
Not
it's
elbow
not
related.
his elbow and not even his upper body in any form. Somehow he tweaked a hamstring, and they decided to put him on the 15-day. And
Terrible
it was
luck.
retroactive a couple of days, so he won't be back until the end of next week sometime. So he misses a couple of starts. But Spencer Schwellenbach last night was dynamite.
He's been awesome.
It was the
this year.
bullpen that gave up those late runs. Obviously, he was on last night, man.
Schwellenbach's been great.
Yeah, he's been very good
so far to start this year.
So Braves and Cardinals again tonight, weather permitting. I did see earlier that some storms are starting to hit that part of the country. So keep your fingers crossed. I did see David O'Brien, great beat writer covering the Braves, say there's a possibility that they would call it and have a doubleheader tomorrow. But as of now, that is not the case, at least not that I've seen. So Braves and Cards tonight, going for 5. Pitching matchup. Hang on. Actually,
Not Spencer Strider.
Well, Atlanta, I think he was there, and now DOB did report that Atlanta will likely go with some form of opener tonight. So they're going to go all Tampa Bay Rays on us and just decide to throw
Just
Charlie
like North Florida tonight.
Charlie Holstaff. Yeah, it's just Charlie Holstaff tonight. So,
Bullpen game.
but Andre Palante will go for St. Louis. He's had a good start to the year, 2-1 with a 3.22 in 22 and a third, 15 strikeouts, 7 walks. Giving up 3 home runs, though. That's good news for the Braves.
That is.
They hit home runs.
Pretty well.
They do. They do. Fair point. And finally, the NBA playoffs are well underway at this point in time. Tonight on the schedule, we've got the Pacers and the Bucks. Indiana actually leads that one game tonight, but they are at home, so I guess that's not too much of a surprise.
Damian Lillard comes back.
OKC and Memphis. Memphis did know the other night there was a game, didn't they? Even though they lost by like 1,000.
That's kind of the thing about when you play a 68-win team.
But you
Sometimes
should.
you
But if
can
you're
know.
see, that's the thing about the NBA play. Sometimes you lose, sure, but you should not lose a playoff game. Was it 51?
51 points. They lost by 51
Again,
points.
let me give
Good thing they fired Taylor Jenkins, huh?
Well, let me give you an industry term on that one too. Ugh. Come on, man.
I'm so glad the Memphis Grizzlies decided to scapegoat the coach instead of the inconsistent star who can't stay on the floor and all other issues they have with this team. That was the issue. Yeah, Taylor Jenkins is the problem with the Memphis Grizzlies.
And tonight, late out on the coast, Lakers have the T-Wolves, who won at Staples Center the other night. The Lakers better win this one, man.
Yeah, my panic meter's at a 7 because they got handily worked in the last 2.5 quarters of that first game.
Did they lose by like 20? What was the score of that game?
Oh, they lost by 22.
Yeah.
They were down by almost 30 at one point. Like they got it kicked.
That's not good.
They had some problems defensively.
That's not good.
Not good to have defensive problems when you have to play against Anthony Edwards.
No. Tomorrow, Boston hosts Orlando. Cleveland hosts Miami. And Golden State go on to Houston. They won the other night.
That was a huge game one win. Steph Curry still got it. This Warriors team, ever since getting Jimmy Butler, which I didn't know how that would work at all, but since acquiring Jimmy Butler, that's one of the best defenses in the NBA.
All you need is a few good months.
And the Warriors have that right now. They're playing really good. And I love this Rockets team, but there's a difference, especially in the last 5 or 6 minutes of that game. If you just watched and you had no prior context of NBA history, and I look at you and I ask, which one of these teams has been here on the stage before? Which one hasn't?
Right.
You find out pretty quickly.
Yep, good call.
As good as the Rockets are, Warriors have been there, and that's how they were able to scrap that game out. That game was under 90 possessions. You know how many games in the NBA are under 90 possessions now?
That one.
That one, yeah. Not many. Not many. So the Warriors
Well, I
will
asked
drag
you when
you
I
into
saw the
mud
score of
and beat you
95-85, I was
possession.
like, shouldn't that be a third quarter score?
Normally.
Yeah.
Warriors, they took that pace and bend it through their will.
You go, Steve Kerr. Finally, the Rose Bowl. I mentioned this earlier in the program, but if you didn't hear, as part of the CFP meetings going on in Dallas this week, the Rose Bowl game has agreed to move its kickoff to 1 p.m. Pacific time, 4 p.m. Eastern time. And you might say, well, okay, it's the earliest kick
in the 109-year history of the game. At least going back to 1916 is what they told us.
The Rose Bowl is historically stubborn when it comes to when they play that game.
It's kicked later than 2 p.m. Pacific a few times, but it's never kicked earlier. So this will help the TV windows a little bit more.
I think the only time I can remember it kicking later was whenever it was the national champion, when they had it as national championship games.
Yeah, and then I think in one of the semifinals, I think I saw so a couple of times, but not they don't like
Sparingly.
to mess, they don't like to mess with it, man.
They want that end of third quarter sunset.
They do
to be prominent.
Well, now it'll just be middle of the fourth quarter sunset. It's not that big a deal. The end of the game sunset. It'll be nice when they leave.
It'll be lovely still.
And you know what? Enough of those people can probably control the sun anyway.
Someone find the remote
It's
control.
Hollywood,
for the sun.
man. It's Hollywood.
Someone find the remote control, move it back towards those mountains.
It's Hollywood. Just put up a big screen and nobody will know. They're all there to watch the game, right? That's our integrated media headlines of the day. Come back on the other side with more from Coach Beamer and Carolina Spring Football. It's the Postgame Show.
Welcome back into the Postgame Show here on this Tuesday afternoon. Jay Phillips, Elijah Campbell with you. Talking some Gamecock spring football earlier. Shane Beamer, of course, had his postgame presser. Coach Elijah Campbell calling a magnificent play, the second biggest gain of the night.
29 yards.
That's right. Again, that's the theme now. And soon enough, we're working on it. We're going to have the Coach Elijah Campbell show. Might be a call-in show.
Yep.
Might be a show about strategy. Or, as Alan Cole of Gamecock Scoop earlier mentioned, just might be like life coach Elijah Campbell.
I give life advice.
You know?
Oftentimes
like
unsolicited.
ice cream for dinner. You know, I think that Alan asked you, I forget the exact wording, was what is the equivalent of the play you ran when it comes to dinner? And you said ice cream.
Yeah, absolutely.
And even mentioned a particular brand of Ben & Jerry's Half-Baked.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
It's a good guilty pleasure of mine. Just like the same way, trick plays out of the wishbone can be a good guilty pleasure. Sure. Mixing it up a bit. Catch your opponent off guard.
But Coach Beamer has now taken to the road. He's on tour. His theme is just, getting to be a better football team. Cut number 10, please, sir. This is Coach last night at the Welcome Home event in Florence, talking about just the assessment of what they may need defensively through the portal now that you've had your spring complete.
Yeah, in different ways, you're exactly right. When the portal closed, you look at your roster and you say, okay, we feel, pretty good about everything, but we feel really good about this position, but could certainly feel better if we were able to add some guys at this position. And it's like I've told some of the, players on our team, when I say that about certain positions, it's not saying that we're not good enough. It's just saying from a depth standpoint, we're not where we need to be. Like every program, we have target numbers that we want to have on scholarship at every position, and there's some positions that we're below that right now. And does that mean we're going to attack the portal? Maybe, maybe not. But as far as the spring goes, you look at it, we feel really good about where we are from a defensive back standpoint, and some of the progress of some of the young freshmen makes us feel better about that, and the new transfers, the way that they've come in, and you were kind of in a wait-and-see mode going into the spring. Feel really good about where we are at linebacker with the returners that have taken steps, a guy like Jaron Willis or a freshman that's come in, all of them, or transfers that have come in with Sean and Justin. Defensive line and defensive end and defensive tackle, that's a position that just numbers-wise, we're not where we need to be right now, just overall depth. So I felt that way, going into the spring, that might be a position that we look to add. If we don't, it's okay. But at the same time, when you've had some injuries up there and you don't want to necessarily rely on true freshmen at defensive tackle, that makes you think about things. But I do feel better about the defensive line and defensive tackle position than I did going into the spring because of the way some new guys performed. Gabe is here with me tonight. He had a great spring at defensive tackle. Monkel Goodwine had a great spring at defensive tackle. Nick Barrett. And then at the edge position, we all know about Dylan, but Brian Thomas and Desmond and Anthony Addison from Sumter we're really excited about. So seeing what those guys did in the spring make you feel better about up front on defense, but still concerning at certain spots, just overall depth.
Yeah, Desmond Umeozulu, I think, could be fun. And
he almost blew the play up.
Yeah, I know. You were telling me about
He got in the backfield. Brian Rowe had to pump fake him a little bit, get him off his feet.
And Brian, I think they've got some good things over there. The hard part right now is just trying to figure out what you can get this time of year. And as Shane said, if you know that guy's out there, sure. I feel like they've got the bodies, and I feel like they've got a track record of development. So I'd be curious if, and he's talking about, let's say, linebackers, which Clayton also helps coach. Do the two of them just look and go, are we better off? Is it 6 of one, half dozen of another with who we have, and we can continue to coach him up relative to going and bringing somebody in who, and I'm not saying it would, but if you bring somebody in at a certain position now, I don't want to say it could hurt somebody's confidence along the way, but it's like, oh, well, I guess that's it for me. I don't know how that kind of dynamic may play out. Also, like hearing Goodwine, I think there's somebody that, having been an Alabama guy to begin with, that people are kind of ready to see emerge. So
and showed flashes last year.
Yeah. I don't know. I feel pretty. I mean, I feel pretty good about what they've got defensively. I just think it's a matter of just making sure that once these guys get a little bit of experience under their belt. But I'm serious when I say that. I feel like they've developed so well. And you look at guys. Let's just use Nick Emenwari as an example, right?
Under recruited.
Yeah. And now they've turned, I say they've turned. That's not fair. Yeah. He worked his butt off under their tutelage. And in 48 plus hours, he's going to hear his name called. It's pretty cool.
Yeah, especially considering the jump he made when it comes to coverage.
Yeah.
Like, I think we all remember how that Florida game here at Willie B turned out in 2023. Was not his best game, but then he turned it around. And what he did in coverage, I mean, he's one of the few players in all of college football to have multiple pick sixes this past year.
Speaking of Nick, he will be with Elijah and me tomorrow at 3:30
We got him
on these very airwaves.
Day before he gets drafted.
That's right. It's pretty cool.
That's awesome.
It's pretty cool. Good story.
I just hope the Bucs don't draft him. I've seen him mock there a few times. I have a genuine concern. If he falls to 19, he's a Tampa Bay Buccaneer.
I was going to say, now you say that selfishly. You're not saying it against the Buccaneers as a bad franchise. You're saying it as
I don't want him to have to play the New Orleans Saints twice a year.
There you
How about
go.
that?
Yeah. So it was selfish as a fan.
Yes, because he is good, and I don't want the Buccaneers getting a good player.
Yeah.
Or the Falcons. I saw him mock to the Falcons, too.
Yeah. What do we think? We're thinking in the, anywhere from, say, 16 to 25-ish is kind of where almost every mock now has him?
I've looked at about 5 mocks today. The highest was 15 to Atlanta.
Okay, so even higher.
Lowest 32 to the Eagles, but all of them first round. I don't think he falls 32 to Philly.
Well.
But I've seen a lot. I've seen, out of those 5, 3 of them had him going 19 to Tampa.
If he goes to the Eagles, that almost feels unfair.
Then what are you doing with a couple of those other safeties? Reed Blankenship, Cooper DeJean.
You'd like to say they're just hockey lining at that point.
They are.
It's like, all right.
It's an embarrassment of riches.
Yeah. All right. Well, he's not winded. You know what? Still, next. Just trade him in and out, man.
Got to keep these fresh legs out there.
It would almost seem unfair. He won't go to I can't envision him dropping.
I don't think the Eagles will have the opportunity to take him.
I don't think they will. I think he goes before 25.
I think so too. I think he goes before 20.
I think he does, man, because I think, and you know why? Because we saw what he did at the Combine, and the film was already the film. He is not, he's one of those players where the Combine, it's like when you see people up close. I'll go back. I know it's a weird analogy to make, but it's like I've told you before what defenders would say about Connor Shaw. And I know it's not a Combine, but defenders would say of Connor Shaw, we saw him on film. And we didn't realize until he was on the field running past us that we realized, oh, crap, like he's better than the film shows. The point being, when you sometimes are up next to somebody like that, you're like, oh, okay, now I've seen it. I have something even more tangible, if you will. I know it's not quite a literal way to say it, but and that he did that at the Combine. They were like, oh.
You see it in person, that athleticism in person.
Yeah, like, oh. And then you couple it with, as you mentioned, some of the stats and other things, and you're like, yeah, okay. I'm with you. Nothing will surprise me anymore, but I feel like he might go before 20.
Yeah.
Because
that's
a team isn't they're not going to want to be that team that says, ooh, we had a chance on that kind of athlete.
And I feel pretty good about him being the consensus #1 safety on big boards across the NFL.
Well, he was moving up. Who's the kid from Georgia?
Malachi Starks.
Yes, he just moved past him. Mm-hmm. And it was pretty much after the Combine when people went, oh, which I've already done once, but I'm doing it again.
Because
that's what happened.
Weigh a lot into the measurables, and Nick Emenwari's measurables.
Well, take the stats.
Absolutely trounce Malachi Starks.
Take the stats and then see the in-person and go, all right, there's our guy. All right. Drive around the SEC on the other side. Talk more about Tennessee's new quarterback. Get you ready for the baseball week as well. You're listening to the Postgame Show.
From the Wetzel's Automotive Traffic Studios, I'm Elijah Campbell. With a few accidents to get to you. They're causing some issues on the roadways this afternoon, starting with one on Assembly Street near Calhoun Street, one on Colonial Drive at Hardin Street, and then a pair of accidents in Lexington County. Both of these are going to be at Highway 1 at Augusta Road. One is near Swartz Road, the other closer to Oak Drive and St. David's Church Road.
It is Drive Around the SEC time. Welcome back in. Jay and Elijah with you. Again, tomorrow on the program, Nick Emenwari will join us coming up at 3:30, the former Irmo superstar and projected first-round pick on Thursday night. Are you, I know it's Drive Around the SEC time, but there'll be a lot of SEC names, so I'll make this fit.
A ton.
Do you care that the draft is in Green Bay?
Nope.
I don't either.
It is a made-for-TV event anyway. As someone who has attended an NFL draft before, it's not like it's cool to see a couple picks, but it takes so long and usually there's not seats.
Dude, I can't possibly imagine. You went to the one in Nashville, right, a couple years ago.
Kyler Murray was the first overall pick. Saw it in person.
I cannot. Look, that just seems boring as all get out.
Buddy, you could put that thing in Helena, Montana, and I'm still going to watch it.
I mean, I'll watch it because I don't have to just be there.
Being there is overrated.
You know?
It's cool to say that you did once.
I mean, 15 minutes between picks and blah, blah, blah. And certainly by Saturday, man, I got a lot better things to do with my Saturday afternoons than that.
Because the one in Nashville we were at, me and a bunch of my friends I lived with, took an Uber downtown, stood out there, had a decent view. It was still pretty far away from the stage, but a decent view. We could at least see Roger Goodell walk up, and we saw about the first 5 picks, because a buddy of mine is artist formerly known as the Oakland Raiders, was a huge Raiders fan.
Poor Oakland.
So we waited until they drafted Clelin Ferrell, 4th overall in that draft. So now he's upset because he didn't love the pick. And then,
That's another thing.
Pick number 5 rolls around, and then it starts to rain. So it's like, you know what? I think we've seen enough here. Let's just go to the bar.
My favorite is Jets fans that boo picks, and I'm like, none of y'all watch college football anyway.
No,
none of y'all. None of y'all watch college football. Seriously, there's 6 Jet fans that watch college football.
Maybe.
And you know what? They all moved to the South.
Because college football is such a big deal here.
That's it.
Culturally bullied into watching college football.
If you're a Jet fan that lives in the tri-state area, you do not watch college football.
No, unless it's maybe Syracuse.
And they're booing. Oh, they don't even watch Syracuse. Anyway.
I'm just thinking of Adam Sandler's character in Big Daddy.
No, I get it.
That's it.
I get it.
Small crossover.
Yeah, having it in Green Bay, there's nowhere to stay. I don't know who they're hoping to have come in. All the TV shows are going to be up there, though. Dan Patrick's going up there. Even Andy and Ari are going up there. Did you see that?
Interesting.
Yeah. They're going to do it from some sports bar. So's Dan and his crew. Dan's crew at least makes sense. But Andy and Ari these days, look, they got a great show. I love their show. That has become a big part of my morning routine. Or if not my morning routine, then my treadmill routine. Depends on exactly what's going on that day. But it's a good show. Free plug. Andy and Ari on 3.
They're solid.
On their YouTube channel. I like Andy. Hadn't met Ari yet. I'll meet him this summer.
Have to. Hopefully,
look forward
they
to
make the trip to Atlanta for
they'll be
SEC
there.
Media Days.
They'll be there.
I know Andy will, because Andy was there in Dallas.
Yeah, Andy's always there. And Andy lives in Gainesville, so he'll drive right up. And Ari lives in Dallas. He'll just fly over. It'll be fun. Be fun. Carolina's going on day 1. Saw that last week.
They are. They're headlining. I don't think that's actually how they do it, but it's fun to say that.
Yeah. No, Kirby headlines. That's just the way it is these days. Sark. When is Sark? All I saw was that Shane was going on day one. I, honest to God, did not look at the rest of the schedule. I saw that Shane was going day one. I was like, oh, okay. Cool.
I haven't seen the schedule either.
Yeah.
I want to say it's, Sark, Kirby. I don't know if Sark's day one, but I think Clark Lee might be day one too.
Not necessarily a headliner. Solid opening act.
That would be great for if you're trying to go to sleep.
Oh.
I love Clark Lee, but the stage presence is lacking with him.
We'll see. That comes up later. Baseball tonight. Texas A&M has just taken a 1-0 lead on Sam Houston.
Just Sam Houston.
Just Sam.
That poor guy has battled so many SEC teams this year by himself, tooth and nail. Someone needs to give him an award.
They are in the top of the third. Tonight, Tennessee takes on Lipscomb, Nashville, Tennessee. Right?
That's right.
That's right.
They played Lipscomb earlier this year.
They did, yeah. Kentucky and Louisville do battle tonight in Lexington this time around. This is the Governor's Cup tonight, Ole Miss, Mississippi State. They don't have an Egg Bowl. They call it the Governor's Cup.
Oh, come on.
They do play a non-con game. Good for them. Good for them. They've done this for a while. They play where the Braves AA team is.
In Pearl.
In Pearl.
Beautiful stadium.
Yeah, that's what I've heard.
It's actually for AA Park. It's really nice.
Unfortunately, the Southern League does not come into like this part of the world because I've said that our park would be an amazing AA park.
Absolutely.
And people would really appreciate what AA baseball, with all due respect to low A baseball, AA baseball is a whole different brand of really good baseball. Once you've made AA, you're an excellent baseball player.
Yeah.
And then they weed you out. Like that's the thing. Like when you make it to AA, you are really good at baseball.
The stadium in Pearl does kind of resemble Seger a little bit.
Yeah, we have a great park. Hope people had fun today at the Business Persons Special.
That's right, an 11:05 first.
We should have gone to that. You and I should have. Why didn't we go to that?
Could have had our pre-show meeting there and watched some baseball. I'm going on Saturday though.
Oh, cool.
Going to see them play the Mudcats on Saturday because I need a ballpark beer. Like I need air, brother.
Samford will host Alabama tonight, not too far of a drive. Vandy and Middle Tennessee. Go Blue Raiders.
Go Blue Raiders.
Texas State will be at Texas. Arkansas Little Rock at Arkansas. Missouri at Missouri State. Oral Roberts going to Oklahoma. LSU hosts Northwestern State. Auburn and Georgia Tech in Auburn. That's a good one. Top 25 matchup. And a really good one tonight up at Doug Kingsmore, 8 o'clock on national television. Number 2, Clemson. Number 10, Georgia.
Ooh,
that's a good game.
Top 10.
That's a good game.
A top 10 border war.
So go team that my daughter goes to school, where my daughter goes to school. It's not Clemson.
So it must be Georgia.
What do you think about Joey Aguilar going to Tennessee? All right, here's his numbers. Joey Aguilar really never played for UCLA. Now, he officially will go into Tennessee as having come from UCLA. He was there for a semester, which is also kind of weird.
That's happened a lot this year.
Yeah, I don't know if I'm not real big on. Yeah, not real big on that.
That's dumb.
Not real big on that.
What's the point of going?
And really, and the thing too, like, look, Tennessee's a good school, but I mean, UCLA's a really good school too.
Mm-hmm.
Really good school. In fact, I think UCLA is like the number 2 behind Cal as a public school in the country. It's hard to get into. Anyway, let's see. He has thrown for around 6,800 yards in 2 seasons at Appalachian State, 56 touchdowns, 24 picks.
A lot of those came last year.
Now, last year, So let's put it this way. 2023, up in Boone, 33 touchdowns, 10 picks. That's a good season. 10 picks is a lot of picks, I grant you. But, better than 3-1. Last year, 23 touchdowns, 14 picks. So not even a 2-1 there. So whatever happened last year for him to regress, you want to get fixed. And I think Josh Heupel can figure those kind of things out. Look, in the grand scheme, this kid's better off.
Mm-hmm.
Right? That's the way I look at it.
Definitely. Yeah. Well, he's going to be in an offense where receivers are schemed open. He's also going to have a better pool of players around him in terms of like running backs, tight ends, receivers, pass catchers, offensive line. All of that's going to be better. So he's on a better offense, and an offense that is very quarterback friendly, that is wide open. And how many times in a game since Josh Heupel's been the coach at Tennessee, do you see just receivers run down the field wide open? When Hendon Hooker was able to connect on those passes, they were incredible, and that was a really good team. And the last 2 years between Joe Milton and Nico Iamaleava, their inability to connect on those deep balls as what kind of hinders the offense a little bit, because those passes are there. They're there. Those guys get open.
Yeah.
That offense just schemes people open all the time. And Joey Aguilar is a pretty solid deep ball passer. I mean, Pro Football Focus has his grade as on passes 20 yards down the field, 85. That's pretty good. And an adjusted completion percentage of about 40. And that's where he's thrown. He threw 9 of his touchdowns last year and had 24 what they considered big time throws on those deep ball passes. If he can connect on deep balls, they're going to be open. If he can, the big thing is, can you avoid turnovers in the intermediate areas of the field? He can avoid that. He's going to find himself in position to put up really good numbers.
Well, if they can run the ball again effectively enough, then I think that helps him in those intermediates because there won't be because the coverage will have to come up to stop that run, and that'll give him that one-on-one opportunity. This kid's in a much better. I mean, good for you, son. I know it didn't.
Yeah,
this isn't what you planned. Yeah, and you're coming all the way back across the country.
Still making $1.2 million reportedly.
Doing
around
fine.
that ballpark.
Well, and do well at Tennessee, and they'll love you forever. So there's that. That's our drive around the SEC. If you enter the portal and you can't still play, are you really in the portal? Well, we'll discuss on the other side. All right, welcome back in. Final few minutes of the postgame show here on a Tuesday afternoon. Gamecock baseball coming your way in just under a half hour's time. 6:15 airtime on the Gamecock Radio Network. And, of course, right here in Columbia on 107.5. Derek Scott, Stuart Lake on the call, Carolina and North Florida. And let me remind you one more time to enter the Palmetto Citizens Federal Credit Union Grand Slam giveaway. If a Carolina batter hits a Grand Slam tonight, you could win $225 because it's a $25 per night pot increase, meaning if somebody doesn't do it tonight, then it'll be $250 the next game. I can do that math.
Easy math.
All you got to do is go to 1075thegame.com and register. Just find the Palmetto Citizens Federal Credit Union Grand Slam giveaway clicky, spinny thingy. Again, that's Terry Ford's term. What do they call that, a banner ad?
Yeah, a banner ad, I guess. But see, back in my day, Grand Slam giveaway was just a free breakfast at Denny's.
Amen, brother.
Doesn't that sound good?
I don't mind winning $225. I can't win and you can't win, but I wouldn't mind winning $225. But
if someone wins, I'll take it.
I might
give
be
it to me.
just as
your heart.
well. I might be just as happy if you just said, "Here's somebody just brought me a Grand Slam."
I haven't had Denny's since I was a kid.
I've had it since
Been a long time.
I've had it since then. Not gonna lie, stop by. There's a Denny's. When we go to concerts at whatever they call it now, the Pavilion up in North Charlotte, and they had so many different corporate names. I don't know what it is these days.
PNC now, isn't it?
That sounds right. Yeah, PNC Music. That sounds right.
I think I just threw some letters together. I don't know what I'm talking about.
But there's a Denny's. You can, when we come back down, not too far from like UNC Charlotte, there's a Denny's. Stop there a few times.
There's one on Sunset, right? Near LexMed?
I think so.
Yeah.
I know there's one out in Harbison. They got one of those old school ones on Harbison, right?
Ooh, I think
with the classic like silvery diner.
Yeah.
I think it's still there. If we're wrong, somebody tell us.
Sounds like I need to make a field trip.
It's not too far. Of course, a lot of traffic on Harbison, so you got to be careful.
There is, but buddy, I came from Nashville. That's nothing to me.
I hear you. Real quick before we get into this final story, congratulations, I guess, to the folks at the Heritage and to CBS. Heritage television ratings were their best, Elijah Campbell, since you were in, second grade, I'm going to say, 23 years ago. Best ratings on television for the Heritage in 23 years.
Indeed, I was in the second grade.
Averaging 4.4 million for the entire round and peaked at better than 6 million.
I think this is appropriate.
So that's good. In addition to excellent attendance numbers and now excellent television numbers, I feel real good about where that tournament is on the PGA Tour calendar. So that's good.
Yeah.
Makes me happy. Way to go.
Keep it a premier event.
Way to go, Steve Wilmot. Way to go, Boeing. Way to go, RBC. Way to go, everybody that works down there. And way to go, state of South Carolina.
Pulled it off.
Yeah.
Well done.
So Jamari Thomas is in this boat. Clemson's Ian Schifflin just got in this boat, too. These are amongst many players. Kansas star Zeke Mayo have all entered the portal today. I think the portal closed. But it closes today for sure. I don't know exactly what time. I was thinking it was 5 Eastern, but the portal closes today. So all these kids went in, and you may say, well, wait, I know those guys, and none of them have any eligibility left. You're right. They don't. So why'd they do it? Well, basically it's because there may be an opportunity to have another year of eligibility. Let me read this from CBS Sports' Kyle Boone. The move comes with the looming House versus NCAA antitrust settlement decision looming as soon as this month that could change NCAA eligibility rules and, in theory, may offer a new framework on the previous 4-year eligibility clock that has long been in place. The case hangs over the sport as coaches and players await the ruling, which could have a significant impact on what teams and players do in the coming months and how rosters are constructed. With so much uncertainty, he says, surrounding the case, players seem to be portaling with no remaining eligibility on the hope of keeping flexibility open. Technically, doing so is legal, though at the moment, he writes, it amounts to no more than a waste of clerical work. Now, here's the thing. If I am out of eligibility and I don't enter the portal, does that mean I've deemed myself inactive? Is keeping my name in the portal better? Like I don't know. And if they did alter the rules to open up things for a fifth year, and you were just playing, wouldn't that be a blanket kind of a thing? I don't know, but.
Yeah.
Well, here's the thing.
Can you keep those guys who didn't enter it?
I don't know. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah. I don't know if you can.
I don't know. This seems. I mean, what kind of advice did they get? Look, Ian Shefflin just needs to go ahead and become what he looks like, and that is like a comedy movie villain.
He could pull it off.
You know, like the high school, comedy movie.
The bully.
Yeah, the bully.
He's 6'8" too.
Yeah.
He could be an intimidating one.
Well, he could make a living in Hollywood for sure. Nick, Evan, Warrior on tomorrow's show. We'll see y'all then.